We've traversed the tombs of Naxxramas. We've climbed every cliff on Black Rock. Now the world cries out for heroes. As a new evil rises, there will be danger. There will be doom. There will be ancient temples filled with relics, treasures, and traps. Who will answer the call?
Explorers lead, and we are in need of explorers. Adventure we seek, cross land and sea. Want to come and join us?
Yes!
Hi guys, and welcome back to Season 2 of the StarLadder and I-League Hearthstone Championship. Now, Lothar, I'm still reeling after what just happened in Round 1. We just saw a turn 4 lethal from Jab in his first match in his win over Nyria.
Yeah, that was quite crazy. Like, turn 2 Darkness's Aspirant into turn 3 Innervate Emperor into Innervate Savage Roar Force of Nature on turn 4 for, I think, 1 damage overkill, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
That was quite crazy, and that led up to Jab winning the game 3-1 against Nyria, but now we'll have a showdown between 2 former teammates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Xixo, formerly of Team Archon, and Firebat here, also just still on Team Archon. I mean, he's been there since almost day 1, it feels like. And the former world champion, I mean, this matchup is 2 very, very good players. Xixo having a pretty amazing season last year. A couple wins, a couple of really big finishes, a lot of really big finishes on the ladder. One of the real pioneers of Patron, you know, like he was one of the first guys to cut the second War Axe before the nerf, and then after the nerf, he was still playing the deck to Legend. Holding number 1 on 2 different servers at the same time, playing the same deck. And then what else can you say about Firebat? But he's a former world champion, so it's hard to count him out ever.
Yeah, definitely one of the players that is for sure a permanent personality in the esports scene, and he has a lot of champion titles under his belt. And the same goes for Xixo, actually. Well, of course, Xixo doesn't have those, like, very respectful world champion title, but at the same time, he has a lot of first place finishes too. When we look at an example of Firebat's resume, he has China versus NA Challenge first place, that is $16,000. Then we have StarLadder Hearthstone kickoff season from just 4 months back. First place, $4,000. Then we have Gfinity Spring Masters 2, first place. Gfinity Spring Masters 1, first place. So he won back-to-back 2 major tournaments in a row. And then we have Pinnacle 1 major, and of course World Championships. But then we look at Xixo, and he has HS Arena Grand Opening Invitational first place, Esports Arena Invitational first place. And then we have actually second place. Well, okay.
Oh, you can't win everything. So what you're telling me is, these guys are good.
Yes,
so that's what you're getting at.
That's what I'm getting at. Exactly.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, these guys are former teammates. Xixo no longer with Archon, he's now in Navi, but he's doing just fine for himself as well. And let's talk a little bit about their lineups, because these are a little different than the other lineups. Now, everyone brought Warlock. All 5 players have Warlock in their lineup. Xixo, however, he has Patron Warrior. Now, it no longer can kill you from its hand for like 50 damage. You know, that has been taken away, but that deck is still extremely powerful. And then Firebat's got a little difference in his lineup as well. He's the only Priest player, and he's playing Dragon Priest. But his lineup, it's geared a certain way, isn't it, Lothar?
Yeah, it is. Like when it comes to Firebat, he's pushing for full control. When Xixo is controls maybe kind of overestimating it, because it's more of a mid-range decks to control by base decks, but are still pushing a lot of mid-range control. So an example, the mid-range paladin that just curves out on Tyrion and has Leon Hands in hand, which guarantees him some sustain in the end game, in the late game. When Xixo is playing more combo-oriented decks, but at the same time, it's not as combo as it was. And I'm thinking here mainly about the Patron Warrior, which we'll see in the opening game.
And it looks like we're gonna see the two decks that we highlighted from these guys, the two different decks from like pretty much the rest of the field are the only ones running these decks. And so it's gonna be the Patron Warrior deck from Xixo and the Dragon Priest deck from Firebat. Yesterday he had a little problem with some of the draws with this deck, not cooperating. Like sometimes he just wouldn't have a dragon in his hand. He actually won a game where he didn't have a dragon for what was the first 7 turns of the game, and he still managed to win. So really showcasing the power this deck can have.
Yeah, and nowadays, the Patron Warrior has a bit more mid-range approach and has a more stable finisher, just because Gromash itself is a very powerful card, and it guarantees 12 damage if you pair it up with an Enrage, or 10 damage if you pair it up with a Whirlwind effect, which is usually is usually being brought to the table by being in the form of a Death Spite. So there's a lot of things that can happen here, but as you can see, Xixo has the perfect answer to the Valence chosen, played very quickly by Firebat, and I'm not blaming him at all for playing that buff as soon as possible, because that's the moment in the game when Warrior still didn't draw a lot of cards, so the possibility of him having the Executor as early as turn 3 is way less than if Firebat would wait for the Executor to be drawn, like let's say on turn 8 or something like that.
Yeah, I love your point there. Like, you might as well go for broke early, because at the worst, you're trading 2 cards for 2 cards. And then at the best, if Xixo just doesn't have an execute, you just run away with the game over the first few turns. I mean, that Valence Chosen can easily snowball this game out of control for Firebat. And then it's actually kind of a big deal that he gets something with spell power in play as well. You know, it's something to be noted that if you can get your Holy Novas to deal 3 damage, you can, you know, preemptively circumvent the Grim Patron turns. You're gonna be able to deal with, you know, the turn where Xixo makes, you know, 2 to 3 to 4 patrons, and you have 1 spell that can take care of all of them.
Yeah, exactly. The second Valence Chosen might be very important for Firebat if he's not able to secure board control, and it looks like it would be very bleak for Firebat. Patrons already spawned on board turn 6, and but he has the Light Bomb to take it back. So this is something this is like a play-by-play from both players. Firebat goes for the Valence Chosen as soon as possible, because there might be an execute later on. Xixo goes for the Patrons as soon as possible, because there might be Light Bomb from the other player. So in this way they both played the odds as best as they could, but in both situations the opponent had the answer.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. You see both the guys actually playing the game in the same way, and it's just making your opponent have the perfect answer to what you're doing, because even if they do have that answer, it's not like the game is actually over. You still get to keep playing Hearthstone. And Xixo has, I mean, is this the best card in the deck? It's probably the most important card in the deck, in the second Death Spite, right?
Yes, the Death Spite is the MVP of the deck. Without it, probably a lot of the deck's power wouldn't be as consistent as it is right now.
Yeah, and Black-Green Corruptor is going to come in and take care of this Shredder. Let's see what's in the box, and it's going to be a Trogno Stupid. And we're going to have to find out, you know, here's the thing. This is what Firebat is trying to do in this game. He's just trying to contain Xixo. He doesn't want Xixo ever, you know, getting out of control and a bunch of patrons in play. He's just going to nickel and dime him until he starts to get incremental advantage and really take control of the board. But he also needs to keep his life total above a certain number, right? Because you can get kind of surprised in this game in a way to win if Xixo were to have something like Grom.
Yeah, that's true. Now, it seems like Xixo needs to draw as many cards as possible, because right now he's running dry, so he's using the second Death Spite, even though it's very important to like get a hold of on that weapon, because it's so important to get that Whirlwind at some point of the game when you draw the second Patron. You need to combo it with Gromash, but at the same time, as I said, you're running dry, so you need to draw cards right now.
Yeah, and we talked about how Death Spite is like, you know, the MVP, the most important card in the deck. Battle Rage can be the most powerful. I mean, he just spent 2 mana to draw so many cards. He drew 5 extra cards in this turn, but Firebat's going to get some of that card advantage back and getting kind of a 4-for-1 here from his Holy Nova. So a lot of extra cards here for Firebat. He is going full Northshire here this turn.
Yeah, he draws a lot of cards. But it's another problem because he knows he needs the answers SAP, and now he got the Valence Chosen um, and the Holy Nova in his hand, and also very important card is the one drop in his hand because that allows him to clear the second Patron wave with ease. It's just Twilight Drake, Valence Chosen, and Holy Nova.
Yeah, we talked about that's going to be really important, and you see him actually knowing that he's going to keep in his hand practically for the rest of the game, unless he has a turn where he can really, break Xixo's back and kind of pull away with the game to where even Patron isn't winnable. So you're seeing both these decks, really get it going. I mean, they're throwing their threats out as soon as possible, making their opponent have it. The opponents have had the answers, but they've been able to reload over and over again and keep the game going. Xixo is continuously providing pressure, using his weapons to control Firebat's board, and he still has a Doctor Boom behind this. Firebat drawing just as many cards, if not more, in this game than the Patron Warrior deck. It's still with a bunch of answers in his hand as well.
Yeah, and now let's see what are the possibilities for Xixo. He has Dr. Boom, so that's quite the most common way of just having board control. He saw one Light Bomb. I was just thinking if you have to trade with that Blackened Corruptor, but I see his one that he's being aggressive because he knows it's very hard for Firebat now to take it back because of the second Light Bomb was most of the Dragon Warlocks are not playing the second Light Bomb.
Yeah, Light Bomb has generally just been a one of, you're correct, and with seeing a Sylvanas in Firebat's hand, I don't know if we actually... I think we may have seen that card yesterday. I can't remember exactly. Maybe we did in this deck. That's one that doesn't always show up here, but it sticks with the way that he's built his lineup. As you said, his lineup is very, very mid-range heavy, and he was expecting, maybe aggressive and mid-range decks from his opponents in this field, and I don't blame him looking at all the opponents that are in this field. Jab, a very big mid-range player, same with Xixo and stuff. So cards like Sylvanas go up a little bit in value, so I love his choice here in this matchup of playing that card. This is a card you don't always see in Dragon Priest, but it could have a big impact in his games.
It definitely can have a big impact just because you can use Shadow Ward Depth on your own Sylvanas. But in this situation, probably it has to be used on the load up just to get it out of the way,
Yeah, he knows that his life total is actually a little more in jeopardy than it looks because he's always got to be worried about the big Grom turn because it represents so much damage. Xixo can attack with his bombs and then play Grom using Whirlwind to activate his bombs and make Grom a 10 power minion. Things could go very badly for Firebat.
Yeah, it doesn't look good for Firebat right now. 21 HP. Let's see, that's 10, 13, 15 damage. There's the Execute. We know that Xixo is keen on using the Execute on 1 HP minions, but it might not be the case here.
Yeah, but I mean, you saw 2 Shadow Word Deaths last turn, and there's a chance that you can really push and put a lot of pressure on Firebat, and I think Xixo might be agreeing with this.
What now?
Let's see.
We're gonna have to see what happens with these boom bots. It's gonna be very important this turn.
I was just thinking about how important is to get more cards, but at the same time, feels like he might have no other choice but just to go ham this turn, and he saw that the one Shadow Death was already being played. 3 damage missing to win the game right now.
And yeah, I mean...
What are the options for Firebat?
Yeah, I mean, this is what I'm saying. I love this play from Xixo. You saw both the Shadow Word Deaths. I mean, his deck almost has no outs. He's already played Light Bomb. He's already played both his Shadow Word Deaths. Great recognition by Xixo there to know when to be able to really push a big advantage. You saw him take his time and think about it that turn. He's like, I've already seen the Shadow Word Deaths. I've already seen Light Bomb. What's a way that he's going to be able to kill my Grom here? I've already seen Blackwing Corruptor from him. It's so hard for Firebat to be able to kill this. He's got to have a Taunter, and I have a weapon sitting there ready for it to get through a Taunter possibly as well, along with an Execute. So love the way that Xixo played the end of that game. Yeah,
very aggressively. I like it too. He knew when to push for the damage, especially with that Blackwing Corruptor, when he just ignored it on the board and just went face with Loader for 5 additional damage would end up mattering a lot.
And look at that card in Xixo's hand. This is a card that, it saw a decent bit of play in Gormok right when it came out, and it's starting to make a little bit of a comeback. Some of these Zoo decks are starting to play it now. They've kind of getting a little lower to the ground and quicker. They're not playing the demon package as much in some of the zoo decks. Now they're playing a few more early minions, and Gormox have to take real advantage of fast draws, but it's also pretty good in Paladin, which we know is very good at getting a bunch of minions on the board.
Yep. And now it's in the Mysterious Challenger is already in the hand from Xixo, so this is very important to have it already, because you know how can you adjust your game plan. It's very similar to when you know that you have like Reno Jackson already in hand, because then you can see how the game will pan out. You actually know what can you do, what are your possibilities, because you have a failsafe card, right? And the Mysterious Challenger here is also the win card, because it just pushes for so much damage in the upcoming turns if your opponent doesn't have an answer. That just finishes the game. Oh wow! In the turn already 2.
Yeah, I expect a really good fight between these two guys in this game. I mean, these are great draws on both sides. Xixo has got an early Coghammer to really start punishing Firebat here. Firebat's got 2 Holy No's to kind of help him get re-control of this board here. This is going to be a good fight between these two, because board control is what's most important in this matchup. Each player is going to be fighting for it over the next couple turns.
Yeah. And now it looks like Firebat will have to go for the Holy Nova, because he has to take the control of the board back, and that's the only card that actually does it right now. But he goes for the Azure Drake. Interesting.
Yeah, we've seen him be patient in his games, very, very patient
with the Hellfires, right?
What's that?
With the Hellfires he had in his deck, right? And it seemed like he is very patient with those, but when he was playing Warlock, it did cost him the game when he was so careful with playing the Hellfires when he could.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a game where he had a chance to play a Hellfire, and then the way the game panned out, since he didn't play it, he never had a really good chance to do it. A little bit of a misstep, a little missequencing here from Xixo. Kind of wastes a shield here just for a second, but hopefully that doesn't come back to bite him too bad here.
That's true. Now let's see.
I kind of like the way Firebat's playing this game. He doesn't need this Azure Drake to win the game, and Holy Nova is such a big card in this matchup that he's valuing Holy Nova over the Azure Drake, knowing that Xixo is going to put a lot of resources into it.
I'm just always thinking, when you want to finish up the creatures, is the moment before the all those secrets are being played on the board, and that was the moment when you had the chance to clear the minions before any secret was played. So value of Avenge is going down because there's no board before you do it.
I want to talk about this too. I love the way that Firebat played this turn and not attacking, because he didn't want to trigger any traps going into turn 6 from Xixo, because he doesn't want to get extra secrets out of Xixo's deck from his Mysterious Challenger. Love not triggering these secrets from Firebat to take a little value away from Xixo.
Now, the Vermis Agent is very annoying for any Paladin or any aggro deck. It's just an annoying minion that has 2 attack and 4 HP taunt for measly 2 mana. And it's one of it's sharing the mana cost with Anoatron, and it's actually sharing also the nickname I gave it. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's probably, I think when that card came out, it really helped put this deck over the top. It seemed like that was one of the things that was using that, and Twilight Guardian really actually made this a deck. Beforehand, it didn't have any really good 2 and 4 drops to punish your opponent or to get yourself really going. Like, you already had some decent 3 drops, and then this card in this matchup also does a lot of work as well. Cabal Shadow Priest, not only does it just steal a small minion from Xixo, but he gets a lot of value off of it. Now he's got his taunt 1/1 from Xixo. He's got the 4/5 body. Now Xixo has to respond to what he's doing, and Firebat's still refusing to trigger those traps.
Yep, and now...
I'm sorry, those secrets. I'm so used to the hunter. I still got the jab mentality from everyone.
Well, trap secret, everyone knows what you meant. Turn 7 into turn 8 with the most powerful minions in the game seems like something that Xixo would like to drop.
Yeah, this is the real strength of the Paladin deck. It just has the best curve in the game, right? I mean, on pretty much every mana cost, Shielded Minibot is insane at 2, Muster for Battle is insane at 3, and then when you start getting 6, 7, and 8, Mysterious Challenger, Dr. Boom, Tyrion, there's not a lot of ways to deal with those decks if they curve out perfectly from those spots. It just has the best curve in the game.
Yep. But still there's an answer to the Dr. Boom. But unfortunately, the Avenger is putting another big threat on the board, and the Redemption also brings 7-1 minion on board. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, Firebat's finally gonna go ahead and trigger these secrets. He's been waiting for the right opportune moment to do so. And this board is getting a little gummed up here for Firebat. He does have a 4-8. He's gonna be able to follow this up with a 3-6 taunt here to kind of protect his guy a little bit, hopefully, from this giant keeper of Uldaman. But Xixo, he's not short on more pressure to bring this turn. If he wants, he can play a Mysterious Challenger this turn and make a 1-1, or he could even go with his, the full 8 mana for Tyrion there as well.
I think we can actually play Mysterious Challenger in this situation. The amount of that depends on the amount of secret that he has in his deck, and he knows that better than us. So, if he has still a lot of secrets, I will play Mysterious Challenger. If there are not a lot of secrets left, and he has already the Avenger in hand, we'll probably favor the Tyrion here.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. The way the bombs worked out that turn, though, he kind of needs to try to protect his Keeper of Uldaman. So I like the way he played this turn and just playing the Tyrion instead. I think if his bombs clear the board there, which would have been really important, I think he goes for the play that you're talking about with the Mysterious Challenger. And we see he actually draws the second Noble Sacrifice here. So his draw for the turn is an actual dead one, but he still gets to make the smaller Christmas tree here, and it is that time of year, so good for Xixo. Plus, he gets the Ashburn to take care of this giant Cabal Shadow Priest, but the life totals are getting pretty precarious for both players here.
Yeah, but 9 damage for Priest to deal is nothing easy to do, unless the bombs will be doing the work here.
Yeah, I mean, Firebat's deck's not known for its reach.
Yeah, the same goes for the Paladin usually. You are not expecting a Paladin to blow you out of the water, out of the blue, like Druid can do. So even though he's at 9 HP, it might mean that he just will be more aggressive with his life totals because he knows that there's no clear answer from the priest, and that's what he does. Look at that.
Wow, really, really big draw here from Xixo. Lotheb, pretty important on that turn. It's gonna really put a stranglehold on what Firebat can do this turn. He might have really needed to be able to cast some of these spells, get a card deeper with that Power Word Shield, or maybe be able to use the extra heal and damage from this Holy Nova. He might not be able to take care of this board enough because of this Lotheb effect.
This is it. This is 7 damage from Dr. Boom, right? 7 damage to the face, 1 damage from the Boombot, and Black and Corrupted to finish up the game. Even Holy Nova that he has for 10 mana. So what just happened?
What just... Did we miss something?
I'm really confused right now.
Yeah, he traded with the Dr. Boom, right? With Xixo at 7?
I'm really confused what just happened. He was able to attack with the Dr. Boom into his opponent's character, attack with the bomb, and just light bomb, and just holding over to finish up the game, right?
Right. Did we miss something?
Well, I'm watching the game, but
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Was it lagged, or did we have an overlay problem? I'm confused. I don't know what just happened there. So.
Okay, let's just. I'm sure that the Twitch chat will crucify us for this, but let's just move on. Let's see how it goes because Xixo is 2-0 against Firebat, and I'm still thinking about it, but I don't know. This is the first time I see that happen. I mean, it seemed like a default for me.
I don't even know what to say. We're just gonna move on to the next game here, and you're seeing one of the new cards. I think that is starting to make huge waves here so far constructed because it seems like it doesn't matter what Warlock deck you're playing this card. Dark Peddler is having a pretty big effect. League of Explorers was having a pretty big effect already as well. And look at this, he even takes the Corruption. This is a card that I don't know if I've ever seen this card cast in a competitive setting, maybe off of a Spellslinger.
Yeah, and The corruption, the problem when you're playing the corruption against most of the decks that you're facing on ladder is the fact that they're super fast, and the corruption is just too slow because it still deals damage, right? So it's a card that might be just used in those situations, like when you get it for free.
Now, how does this matchup usually play out? Do you feel that the Paladin deck doesn't do enough since it's so clogged in like the mid game to be able to really apply enough pressure to Xixo before he can, really get things going? Because he's gonna be able to have time to get all these cards in his hand that he needs and get a really big effect from an Emperor. And then when that happens, it's probably going to be too much for Firebat. Or is there ways that Firebat can really combat that in this game?
The problem for Firebat to take control of this game is the fact that Xixo is sporting a lot of AoE tools. Cards like Hellfire and Shadow Flame are just wrecking Paladin left and right because of the most of their creatures have free HP. Even like the boosted recruits with the Quartermaster are only free HP, so a single Hellfire cleans up the board really nicely. And Xixo has already 2 Hellfires. Like, in my experience, when you lose with a Warlock, with a Midrange or Control Warlock against a Paladin, it's only because you don't draw your Hellfires.
Well, Xixo's doubled up on that, so he should be fine from this spot. And I do like playing Azure Drake here this turn because you just want to get into your deck and get a few more of those super important cards. Like this Emperor hand, bear with me, it's not the best Emperor hand I've ever seen. A lot of these cards don't need to be discounted to do what he needs to do. He's looking for very specific stuff to discount with this Emperor. Plus, his hand is just good enough to keep himself in this game for the next few turns as well.
Yeah, that's true. And now he baited out Firebat to play the Quartermaster on his turn 6, and that means that the Hellfire will be, of course, played next turn. At least that's my assumption here. Let's see, second Big M Hunter, which is usually not that useful against Paladins. There's only one card in the Controller's Paladin, which will have an effect on the board with the Big M Hunter in range, which is Dr. Doom, of course. Because I don't think Xixo is running any Abusive Sergeant in this deck, right?
Right, there's no Abusive Sergeant as far as we know. I think we've seen all 30 cards of his deck. Plus, Firebat's not running the secret package. He's not running the Series Challenger, so there's no, like, oh, we might avenge the right creature. I might get avenged to go on the right guy, and I get extra value out of my big game hunter. So, yeah, the second one is just going to be a 4/2 body, and wow. That's a great one for Firebat here. Really turning up the heat.
13 HP left for Xixo. So another Hellfire doesn't necessarily clean up the board, because there are 2 creatures with 4 HP are kind of a role for Firebat. The Old Murkai deals a lot of damage, and it stays out of range of the Hellfire, which is very important. So now Xixo is pushed to use the Emperor and clean just 1 creature with Dark Bomb. He has the access to heal for next turn, and he knows he can do that because Paladin is missing the burst potential, right? So that's 7 damage. Paladin 8 with the additional Murloc from the Murloc Knight, but that's still not enough.
Yeah, as I say, there are a couple ways to. There's like one, I think at least one way to lethal here. If he gets another Old Murkai plus Defender of Argus, I believe that was lethal this turn. But Xixo has to actually go for this Emperor here. He can't wait anymore because now he's under a ton of pressure. Firebat, and Firebat's gonna go ahead and take out this Emperor because you can't let that just sit around for a few turns. Plus, it seems that like his board was gonna stick around the way that Xixo played the last turn, but now that he's got all these discounts, he can play multiple things in this turn. He can Hellfire plus anti-Keelbot and still have some mana left over if that's what he wants to do. He's got a Twilight Guardian in his hand, but he might be missing that other dragon, so not being able to taunt up is a big thing this turn too. But he does have a 0 mana Soulfire here as well, so he's got a lot of options and ways to take care of this board.
Yeah, and still, that pesky Murloc Knight is still on the board, so we push to use Silence on it right now, because that's the MVP of the game so far. This was the only creature that could have played the board outside the Hellfire range and actually did it. So very, very important to point that out.
Yeah, Firebat's going to go ahead and try to really push his advantage here. He's going to add a Loatheb and a Sludge Belcher. Sludge Belcher is protecting his low health minions, and this Loatheb is putting a lot of pressure on Xixo's hand. He has had a discount, but it does actually make this Soulfire a little bit more expensive. Paying 5 mana for 4 damage and discarding a card, not where you want to be.
Definitely not with this kind of hand. And Big Game Hunter is still useless against those minions. No Abuser Surgeon inside to boost a 5 attack minion to Big Game Hunter that into the range, but the Soulfire, the Soulfire for 5 mana was so painful to deal with in Xixo, and now he just like a nail in the coffin. Tyrion is slammed down on the board. Yeah, I
don't think there is a card in Xixo's deck that can get him out of this situation. Firebat is going to... He's going to set up lethal in some way here. You know, he might make a trade or two here just to be a little safe. There's some value trades for him here, but yeah, he's just going to go ahead and push all of the damage into Xixo, making almost all of his minions. Oh, look, there is an Abusive Sergeant in his deck. All right, that's a card we might have missed yesterday. We might have seen all 30 cards that are in his deck. And, you know, sometimes these decks do play 1 or 2 of that to, you know, help out the fact that they have 2 big game hunters.
The Mortal got also late to the party, because it would be so crucial to have it on the turn when the Morlock Knight was slammed on the board, because that would allow Xixo to, I think, cancel like 12 damage incoming from the Morlock Knight, because it attacked twice. It spammed another minion. That minion added the bonus from the Murloc for Old Murloc Eye. So there was a lot of damage that was stacked up during the turns when he wasn't able to finish it up with the hero power.
Oh yeah, the Murloc Knight sticking around for multiple turns, that was absolutely the game. You're 100% right. That's a card that when it came out, everyone was talking about. This card looks very powerful. It looks great. We haven't really seen it shine too much since, because Paladin has kind of shifted to more aggressive decks, with Secret Paladin being so popular, and you don't really want another... I know the card costs 4, but it's secretly a 6-drop. You know, and so you don't want another 6-drop in your deck too much. So we haven't seen a ton of play of it, but with these mid-range Paladin decks becoming popular a little bit again, we're starting to see it come in the limelight just a little bit more.
Yeah, and now let's see what's happening here. The Dark Peddler will be most likely played on turn 2 unless the Xixo decided to Dark Bomb this, and we know that he's playing the Malagos version, but at the same time, this card is not required. The Malagos and the Dark Bomb combo, an example with the Emperor, to finish up the game, so it's most likely used as a tool to clean up the board. The problem is, he would probably use the Dark Bomb when there will be only 1 Twilight Web on the board, but with 2, it makes no difference whatsoever to use the Dark Bomb right now.
Yeah, and this is looks like Purple's deck that he used to win the tournament with last week, and still got this Kazon Mystic in it, and we've been seeing it through this group. Multiple people are playing this deck, and we keep seeing them draw these keys and mystics, and they're just 4/3s for 4 in a lot of situations. It seems that a lot of players in this group might have had that in the back of their mind, knowing that people were going to be playing that this weekend. And this week, they were like, I don't want to just like straight up lose to a Kazon Mystic out of this deck. I don't want to give my opponent extra value. So good deck building by your players here.
Yep. Now the Dark Bombs helps a lot with the board control, because 2 of his minions are allowed to trade with the Shrinkmeister, but in between the party, as usual, goes the Vermeer's Agent to mess up with those little 2/1 minions. And
yeah,
the same
your favorite card, right?
Yeah. And now,
I know you just love Wormless Agent, yeah.
And now it seems like Twilight Guardian would like to do the same, but the minions were sacrificed anyway.
Yeah, and that was a turn 4 pass from Firebat. No plays, his hero power doesn't do anything. He's got a 3/2. He doesn't want to attack into this 3/6 here just yet. But he does have some decent plays on 5. His hand is glutted with 5 drops here. He's got a full 4 of them, but this Blackwing Corruptor is going to come down, finish off this Twilight Guardian, and challenge this Azure Drake. One of the better plays Firebat can make there.
And Xixo will be tapping every single turn because he needs that card advantage to get it rolling. And trading, yes, why wouldn't you trade here? You can allow the priest to have a target for the buffs.
Yeah, you can't let Power Word Shield come in. You can't let Valen's Chosen really run your day. So anytime, like, I find that that's one of the ways to actually beat Dragon Priest is if you can keep board control away from them. I mean, that just sounds, academic, but if you can keep board control away from them and then you take your trades whenever you can, you have to do that. Because if you let them keep a minion and they get a really high value Power Word Shield or Valence chosen on you, that's an easy way for you to lose to the stack.
That's very true. And Priest shares a similar problem with Paladin. They need creatures to create board control, and of course they have both a reset button in form of Light Bomb and Equality Consecration. But at the same time, they really require minions on board to have a solid game plan. And every single player that knows that will try to battle with the Priest for board control. So no wonder that Xixo is trading with almost every single minion that he has.
Now, Xixo was able to get off an Emperor activation here, and Firebat had to 1-for-1 it for 6 mana as well by just using a Light Bomb, because otherwise he was going to have to let the Emperor sit around, and you cannot let these decks get extra triggers off their Emperors, because they're going to be drawing so many extra cards. That's so much mana that you're going to be giving over to Xixo, and like we saw in our first round, whenever you give someone extra mana, it's usually going to spell your demise in a game. Anyone who gets to play stuff for cheaper than it's supposed to be or for free, it just breaks the parameter of these card games. They just can't keep up. And Xixo, he's actually just going to get really aggressive here. He's going to play this Blackwing Corruptor, just deal 3 to your face here, and just put a 5/4 body into play. Why not?
Yep. It's what is awesome about the Blackwing Corruptor is the fact that it has the 5 attack. It just deals with so much threats from your opponent. It deals with a low tip. It deals with a sludge belcher. It deals with an example Kyber Shadow Priest. So it has the ability to trade with almost every single minion in the game that is from range 1 to 5 mana. Even though it can trade with its older brother from the Shaman arsenal, which is Fire Elemental. But of course, Shaman, even though it's trying to be boosted by Blizzard with every single expansion, it still stays trash. I mean, not trash. I'm kind of exaggerating.
The secret
here,
ninth class, yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, it's so dimensional right now. One-dimensional. You have to play super aggressive to be competitive with Shaman. But it's very unlikely for Shaman to make a twist.
Now, I want to talk about a play that Xixo made a few turns ago. Now, when he made the Blackwing Corruptor, there was a chance for him to play Brand Bronzebeard that turn and get the extra damage out of it, to trigger his battle cries twice. But I liked that he didn't do it, instead played a Zombie Chow, because Firebat's very commonly going to have Cabal Shadow Priest, and you really don't want to lose your Brand's Bronzebeard there for a Cabal Shadow Priest. Just giving him a 2/4 is kind of bad. He might not be able to use the ability too much. He has his own Blackwing Corruptors, but not a lot of ways to abuse it. But speaking of that, he's actually got, he can do that again now this turn if he wants, but he's going to go ahead and just get the big Game Hunter value when he can.
Yeah, an interesting choice of cards here, because there was a way of just killing off the Cabal Shadow Priest with double Battle Cry from Blackwing Corruptor, and probably most of the players would have jumped on that. But as you said, that still might be the second Cabal Shadow Priest, and I'm sure that Xixo was checking out Firebat's previous games, and he knows that there are 2 Cabal Shadow Priests in his deck.
Yeah, this way allows him to clear the board as well. Great. I mean, Xixo is just demonstrating his knowledge of this matchup and what's important. He realizes, oh, I've got these great turns ahead of me. I can do all this cool stuff, and look how great my deck is. But that's actually going to play into ways that Firebat can beat you. And he's showing that he understands his matchup. Great plays here from Xixo, just showing his knowledge overall of Hearthstone.
Yep. Now let's see. He has the board control. Firebat has access to holding over to kill two-thirds of the board, but in this situation, he just needs to drop minions as fast as possible and try to regain the board control. So, no.
Yeah, Firebat's kind of digging for Ysera here at some point in time. He needs that big play that's going to stick on the board, give him a lot of value, and start to turn this game around, because he's not pressuring Xixo in any way here. So Xixo's going to be able to really lean on this hero power. And then look, he even picks up another dragon here. This Azure Drake, if he needs to, is going to enable this Twilight Drake to get its battle cry going. He can even double up on it if he wants, because Brand's Bronzebeard cannot be picked off by another Cabal Shadow Priest. Both of them are gone from Firebat now. So Xixo doesn't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, now he had the option of either killing the 2/1 creature or just going for the double battle cry from Azure Drake, as you said, and he goes for the double battle cry. It's kinda greedy, but at the same time he gets two minions on board. Either even though it can die easily, just because there are two many sources of damage from Firebat's deck, and then we can see now there's a perfect clean for Firebat, but the Mortal Coil with Malygos will clean anything after that.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite combos the deck has. It's just turns in Malygos, Mortal Coil, something, and then I just have this 4/12 that is very hard to deal with. As we know, this is a 4-power minion. That is the sweet spot against Priest. They don't have a card that just straight kills this, actually, in their deck. And Firebat has no more Cabal Shadow Priest. He doesn't have a Shrinkmeister. He's actually just at Xixo's mercy now. Xixo just can do whatever he wants for the next couple turns. Malygos is just such a big looming threat.
Yeah, small misstep from Xixo here too, because the StarLadder could have had one more HP, but it doesn't really matter here. He has access to an insane burst potential in the next turn. How much damage is
he's
that?
just firing. He's just on like autopilot now. This game, he realizes this game is over. Firebat realizes this game is over. He's just going through the motions now, pretty much.
Silence the Taunt, go for 11 damage to the face, Dark Bomb to 19, Hellfire to 26, and then Soulfire.
Looks like that's it looks like Lothar, your math is correct. Xixo agrees with you, and it looks like Xixo is actually going to take this match. Big for him. We talked about this, that he needed to get a win on the board fast. He did that in the first game, and then he needed to get a win in his round quickly as well, because he was 0-2. He's now moved Firebat down to 1-2, and he is 1-2 himself, getting himself back into this now. We have a lot of players all kind of grouped up at 1-2 there.
Yeah, but I just checked, and the Fireball actually missed lethal, so we went wrong. I was baffled, because that doesn't happen often, especially in broadcast tournaments, but the world champion actually missed a very easy lethal, and it did cost him the whole match. So
yeah, so I wanted to touch on that. So I got messaged by somebody during it as well, because there are obviously a lot of people are watching this, and I was messaged by somebody who said, let me read this real quick. He said that he thinks Xixo was at 19 and not 9, and that on the last turn of Paladin versus Priest, and that it was a little bit of with the way the screen looked, we just couldn't tell that it was actually 19 and not 9. And so maybe Firebat didn't miss a lethal there. So I like to give Firebat the benefit of the doubt of not missing an onboard lethal, because maybe there was just something with the production or the way the screen came through on Skype. Sometimes it's hard to see everything, and a number gets skewed somewhere as well. But it did look like that as well. You are right.
yeah, well, we'll see how that goes. I mean, I'm guessing that there's a topic on Reddit already, so
Yeah.
we'll have to just check it out during the break. But that's it. Xixo takes the match, and Firebat is now with a score 1 win, 2 losses, and Xixo is on the same score because he was given 2 losses yesterday, so he's still up and running, and maybe with a 3-0 win in his last match, he has still some chances, but no, don't write that down, because I said it. I don't have the tiebreakers in my head, but it's still worth to play it.
I mean, yeah, he had a really rough day one. He lost 0-3 his first match and then 1-3 in his second match. So that's going to really hurt his tiebreak chances. It's like you said, he really needed to win in big ways today, and he got it out of the way early. The 3-1 win over Firebat here. Probably needs the 3-0s next match to have a chance. And speaking of next matches, we have one more coming for you. I'm sorry, we have 3 more coming for you. But our next one is a really good one. I'm pretty excited about this. We get our 2-0 player coming into our next match. We're going to have a little bit of a break right before that match, but we're going to have Trump coming back. He went 2-0 through this pod yesterday, and then he's playing against Jab, the other 2-win player in this pod. So that pretty much seems like a win and in match to me. Either one of these guys wins. It feels like they're going to be through this group. 3-1 is probably going to be good enough to do it unless something kind of crazy happens. So when we come back from this break in just a minute, we're going to have Trump versus Jab. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back. You're watching StarLadder and iLeague. We'll be back in just a few minutes.